Hello guys, NautoAis here, and I want to give my thoughts on this breaking news that happened last week, and that is Phil Spencer retiring at Xbox, and at the same time, Sarah Bond resigned from the company, and you can see why, but I'll give my thoughts about it later. So for people who don't know what's going on, so last week there was a breaking news that said that Phil Spencer will be retiring on February 23rd, which is a Monday. And to some extent, surprisingly, no, I have a feeling that that might happen. And to some extent, people might say, retiring, you mean he got fired? Well, potato, potato. The bottom line, probably thinking is he was ousted. Bottom line is, hey, you did what you could, but it seemed that at this point on, you're not really doing good with the company, so we need to ask you to leave. So the agreement is he's just going to retire, so he's probably going to do something else. I don't know, future endeavor, possibly. But the bottom line is that Phil Spencer will no longer be on Xbox. And in the case with Sarah Bond, her resigning from the company kind of makes sense. If you've been following her career and her endeavor, supposedly she's not too good to some extent. Some people even believe that she was hired because of her politics, because of her quote-unquote appearance. I mean, you decide. I think that's kind of like a stupid reason, but to some extent, if you're seeing the result, possibly. But again, I'm not touching that. Whatever, it's her decision to leave, that's on her. It is what it is there. So what's happening now is that Phil Spencer is going to be replaced by someone named Asha Sharma, and apparently she's known for working with a company that relate to AI, and of course the Microsoft CEO basically supports AI technology, so they also want to make games using AI. Again, you decide, good, bad. For me, if the game is good, yeah, but again, can you really rely on AI to the extent? Well, we'll just have to wait and see there. So what does it mean? Well, Microsoft is changing, and let's see what happens with this AI technology like they want to push for Microsoft. Could it be the end of Xbox? Who knows? Right now, it's too early to tell, but to some extent, we'll just have to wait and see in 2026 and beyond. So my thoughts about Phil Spencer leaving Xbox, like I said, is that it's sort of, he had it come to some extent because, I mean, for me personally, if it wasn't for Phil Spencer, there wouldn't be Xbox, because Don Matrix kind of screwed Xbox, with the Xbox One, all-in-one entertainment, TV, sports, video game, and then of course the mandatory Kinect, which I think for me personally should have been mandatory, makes sense, but the price probably kind of bullshit. If it wasn't for the price, but you still bundle with the Kinect, I think people will be more, yeah, it makes sense, but no, like they had to raise the price for it because they're not gonna sell the Kinect at a loss, and people didn't want a Kinect. I mean, it is what it is there. That's why the newer Xbox One did not have a Kinect port, and of course with the Series XS, you can't even use Kinect whatsoever. I mean, it is what it is there. What can you do? But for me, if it wasn't for Phil Spencer, there wouldn't be Xbox. He saved gaming to some extent. I think in the long run, because the shareholder and his superior were saying, well, we got to find ways to make money. So the idea for him is, let's build up our IP by buying companies. So of course, if you remember in the past, they talk about some of this. Microsoft bought Bethesda, they bought Double Fine, even Tango, Arcane. Of course, the big one was Activision Blizzard. And of course, in the long run, look what happened. Tango Gameworks was released, Arcane got dissolved, and like some of these companies they bought, they were just saying, well, we're going to shut you down. And they asked Sarah Bond about it, and she couldn't even answer it. And no offense, she just looked like an ass trying to say whatever, but yeah, she didn't know what to say, and that's why. I mean, like I said, did she do a good job? Probably not. But anyway, back to Phil Spencer. Yeah, I think the idea of him buying acquisition wasn't really a good idea, but yeah, it backfired. I mean, believe it or not, I was a supporter of Phil Spencer buying Activision Blizzard because I don't want Bobby Kotick basically taking control of Activision Blizzard because he's a dick. I thought it was beneficial, but in the long run, it wasn't, and that a lot of the problem, they have to raise the price of the console, you have to raise the price of Game Pass, and some etc. And apparently because the shareholder they want some returns, and they were not seeing it. And Phil Spencer pushing Game Pass probably didn't really help. I like it. I like the idea, but in the long run, to some extent, is that, yeah, the Netflix of gaming may be good, but if you're someone who has multiple consoles like myself, Game Pass probably not going to be beneficial because you have a lot of games, backlog, and of course, heck, Every time you'll see games on the cheap. $20 game that used to be $70. What do you think is going to happen? They're saying there. And of course, the rig, but that's a different story there. So it isn't unfortunate, but yeah, it kind of makes sense or something in the long run because the acquisition didn't help, Game Pass didn't really help, and look what happened. Microsoft kept losing money to a point that, yeah, they probably forced him to retire, and it is what it is. In the case with Sarah Bond, I know she didn't really do a good job during her time there. I have really nothing to say. I have no feeling for her leaving. It is what it is. A lot of people did say that she just sucked out of her job. Again, that she was a political hire. Again, you decide. It is what it is there. So, yeah. So, again, recap. Phil Spencer's retiring. Sarah Bond quitting. Probably a good idea for her. And the position that Phil Spencer is going to be replaced by someone named Asha Sharma. And supposedly that she used to work for an AI company. And then Matt Booty also going to get promoted. I don't know if he did anything bad, but some people did believe that he kind of did, but it is what it is. So it's changing the guard to some extent, yes. What's going to happen in the future? Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if push comes to shove that Microsoft is going to end up being third party in the long run, or they're going to be bought up by someone. I don't know. And last thing before I close this is that for people wondering, why did Microsoft decide to go to the gaming business? Because of Sony, believe it or not. Apparently the report is that, hey, if Sony can go to the gaming industry, why can't we? So let's do it our way. Let's, compete with Sony, Nintendo to some extent. And for a while, they were an advantage to some extent. His point was SNK 2005, SNK Playmore were supported by Microsoft because Sony apparently giving them a hard time. I already gave my thoughts about it. I mean, my personal opinion is the former people who used to work at SNK Playmore are a bunch of dickheads. I already gave my opinion about that one. So there are some advantages, but as of right now, in the long run, doesn't look like it. That I wouldn't be surprised that in the future, 2027 or beyond, it's going to be Nintendo with their own thing. Sony right now, of course, if you heard the news about Blue Point, it is kind of suck. I don't know what Sony's thinking, but that's a different story there. And then, of course, Steam in the long run. But right now is that they're delaying the Steam machine because of the component, because somebody was being greedy, dickhead, and making the component cost more than it is. Kind of bullshit. Even goes with Sony. There's a report that Sony's trying to figure out how to offset the price without raising the price of the console. Supposedly that a lot of this premium, the subscription, and game as a service, they're probably pushing that to offset the cost of the chip. At the same time, preventing to raise the price of the console. We'll just have to wait and see. So I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, in 2027, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Steam, but that'll be a while. So there you go. So Phil Spencer, in my personal opinion, I think you did a good job with Microsoft. I think in the long run, with the acquisition, the decision with the Game Pass, trying to push it hard, just probably didn't just work out. It is what it is. He retired, yes. Was he fired? Well, probably was forced to leave Microsoft, or, it's one of those situations. And for Sarah Bond, probably a good idea for her to leave. Because if she did it, people probably going to just bitch on her. It is what it is there. So there you go. Changing the guard. Phil Spencer's gone. Sarah Bond is gone. So with that, I'll see you guys later.